quite a lot.
That's on
Yeah,
the music.
yeah. I mean, he's a playwright, so he often thinks in terms of character. And I've always written I songs or me songs, you know, and sort of explored my own psyche, if you like. But in this album, there's quite a few third-person songs. I'm writing either singing about other people or getting inside somebody else's head and singing as them. And I found that quite exciting, almost like acting.
Yeah.
You know, no less emotional, in fact, almost more so, because you're liberated, you're free of your own sort of Anglo-Saxon hang-ups, etc.
Escapade was quite a commercial success. Was splitting from the ends necessary for your own financial security?
No, it wasn't anything to do with that. It was just purely that. Well, when I was still with the band and I decided to do a solo album, that was because I had a lot of songs left over from N's albums, and I thought, well, I'll clean out the cupboard and do a solo album. I didn't really think then that I would leave, but it did well, and I got the taste of it, and I found it exciting because when I say, you know, people describe me or I describe myself as being solo, it doesn't mean I'm on my own. I like working with teams of people. I thrive on group work.
Yeah.
But it just means that each time I do an album, it's a different team, so I can choose, and it makes it really exciting, you know.
Yeah. So how sort of philosophical are you about the fact that Split Enz wasn't the worldwide success that we'd all hoped for?
Well, I got used to that fact a few years ago with True Colours, really, because if any album was going to do it, it was that, and we were denied. We got a hit single in England out of it, but in America we came as close as you can get, and then at the last minute it didn't go. So I got used to that, and in fact, with the next two albums, well, certainly with Time and Tide, we didn't care anymore. We just wanted to make an album that was true to us, and I think we made the best album of the lot with Time and Tide. So once we were free of that sort of trying to go for the top all the time, it allowed us to make, you know, really good. Certainly didn't stop us from making good music. But I think we blazed a few trails, and we did enough. You know, I think we inspired a few people and showed what could be done. We created a myth out of ourselves, which is important.
It seems that more and more New Zealand bands are looking towards the UK now instead of Australia. Can you offer any words of wisdom on?
Well, I think I've got a hunch that what's going to happen in England is what happened with Australian bands about 5 years ago, like starting with the Birthday Party, and then the Moodists, the Triffids, the Scientists, Hoodoo Gurus more recently. A lot of those bands, they became really credible in England all of a sudden. It was really hip to be an Australian band. None of them sold records, but they got good reviews. They were noticed by the press and all of that. And I think certainly the Chills have pioneered that particular movement from New Zealand during this last year. They've been getting good reviews, they've been noticed, and their gigs have been well received. And I think that's going to happen now. New Zealand bands will become quite hip, but whether any of them will sell records, that's another thing. I mean, the only thing I found was that the music press aren't really, in fact, very significant in England. If you want to find out what's going on up there, they're sometimes quite useful to read, but in terms of high profile, they don't mean much. They only sell just over 200,000 copies in a country of 50 million, so they're not significant, and to get a good review or a bad review isn't really important.
Yeah.
But it does tend to gear you up, sort of, when you've got nothing much else. It's quite fun, you know.
Yeah, right. Just one final question, Tim. How self-centered or tunnel vision do you think you have to be to survive?
I think you have to be pretty singular, you know, in your quest. You have to be. In New Zealand, I'm a bit disappointed that things haven't really got that much better. It's still as hard here to make it. It's still as hard to get airplay. It's still as hard to sell out concerts for local bands. And there may be something coming in soon about this local quota business on radio, which could help. In Australia, it seemed to help. But production standards have to go up. You know, it's the old cart and the horse. Which comes first? Do you get airplay and then that'll bring everybody up, or do you sort of make better records and then, you know, it's so confusing here. It's really hard to know. I don't have any easy answers, but you do have to be obsessive and almost arrogant, I think, to start with, to get through that. And then if you get through that stage, stay together, because it still seems to be the garage band 6 months break up mentality, which is all very well. That makes a short story, but 6 years makes a myth, you know.
Tim, thanks very much.